The plate in my hands was still warm when Ryan's voice sliced through the kitchen. "You lost your job? What do you mean you lost it?" I turned slowly, unsure if I'd heard him right. "They're downsizing, honey. The Whitmores are moving overseas." You've got to be kidding me," he cut in, running a hand through his hair. "Do you ever think ahead, Mom? What are you going to do now? Sit around all day and let me pay for everything?" Clara leaned against the doorway, arms folded, that polished smile never leaving her lips. "Ryan, maybe your mom just needs a little time to adjust. Retirement or whatever this is." Her tone dripped with sweetness and poison. I forced a smile, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm not asking for anything. I just thought I'd stay here a few weeks while I look for something new." "A few weeks?" Ryan laughed without humor. "Mom, you already stay here rent-free. Clara and I can barely keep up with bills as it is." My chest tightened. "Rent-free? I've been paying for groceries, utilities." "That's not the point," Clara interrupted. "It's about stability. You can't just drift in and out expecting us to carry you. Ryan's got a demanding job. I have my own business. We can't take on extra responsibility. Extra responsibility. That's what I'd become, an unwanted chore." I placed the plate on the counter, the quiet click echoing in the tension. "Ryan, I raised you alone. Every shift I worked, every night I stayed up making sure you had what you needed. I'm not here to be a burden. I just need a little understanding." He didn't meet my eyes. "You don't get it. Times are tough. You should have saved something instead of spending every dime." Clara sighed dramatically. "Maybe this is a good lesson. People your age should plan better." "My age?" I whispered. "You're talking like I'm useless." Clara shrugged. "You said it, not me." For a second, no one spoke. The hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. Then Ryan's voice dropped lower. "Mom, maybe it's best if you find a place of your own. You've still got contacts from your old job, right? Someone who'll hire you for light work?" "Light work?" My words caught. "I'm not a stray to be passed around." He sighed, impatient. "Please don't make this dramatic. You'll figure something out. You always do." "Ryan," I said softly, "I came here because I thought—" He raised his hand, cutting me off. "Mom, stop. We've talked about boundaries. Clara and I need our space. You can't just show up here every time something goes wrong." Clara's smile sharpened. "He's right. It's time you started thinking about your own future." I looked between them, the son I'd built my world around and the woman who now dictated my place in it. My throat burned. "My future was built around you, Ryan. Every sacrifice I made was for you." He looked away. "I didn't ask you to." That line hit harder than any slap. I stepped back, gripping the counter for balance. My voice cracked. "You didn't ask, but you took it. Every hour, every penny, every dream I buried was for you. Don't stand there and pretend it meant nothing." Clara's phone buzzed. She glanced down, then spoke without looking up. "This conversation isn't helping anyone. Maybe we should all cool off." Ryan nodded quickly, eager for escape. "Yeah, maybe you should just pack a few things. Stay somewhere else for a while. It'll give everyone breathing room." Breathing room. I wanted to laugh. I took a slow breath instead. "All right," I said. "If that's what you want." Clara's voice softened, almost patronizing. "Don't take it personally. We just need balance, that's all." Balance. That word hung in the air like smoke. I turned to the hallway, my legs suddenly heavy. My old coat still hung by the door, the same one I wore every morning when I left for work before sunrise. I slipped it on, feeling the weight of the keys in my pocket, the only set I truly owned. Ryan's voice followed me. "Mom, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You'll figure things out." I paused, my hand on the doorknob. "I already have," I said quietly. "I just didn't want to see it." Clara's voice floated behind me, half whisper, half relief. "It's for the best." I stepped outside. The cold night air hit my face like truth. Behind me, the door clicked shut. Final. Absolute. For a long time, I stood there on the porch, staring at the faint light spilling from the kitchen window. The shadows inside moved, their world continuing, mine cut off at the threshold. I thought about the years I'd spent saving for his tuition, the nights I'd worked until my hands blistered, the birthday dinners I'd missed. Every sacrifice I'd made had built that warm glow behind the glass. And now, I wasn't welcome in it. I walked down the driveway, the gravel crunching under my shoes. The cold bit through my coat, but it didn't matter. For the first time, the ache inside me wasn't just pain. It was clarity. I had spent my whole life believing love meant giving everything. But standing in the dark, I realized something else. When you give everything to someone who doesn't value it, you don't just lose them. You lose yourself. The wind stung my eyes, but I didn't cry. Not this time. Losing my job wasn't my downfall. It was the start of finally waking up. The rain was so heavy it blurred the world into gray streaks. My coat clung to me like wet paper, my suitcase dragging against the pavement. I kept walking until my legs trembled. When I finally stopped, I was standing outside Lydia's building, the only door I could still knock on without shame. She opened it within seconds. "Margaret? Oh my God, you're soaked. What happened? I need somewhere to stay," I whispered. My voice cracked halfway through. She pulled me inside before I could say another word. "Sit down. I'll get a towel. You're freezing." The apartment was small but warm. The smell of chamomile tea drifted through the air. She handed me the towel, her eyes scanning my face. "Talk to me. What did he do this time?" I swallowed hard. "He told me to leave." Lydia froze. "Ryan? He kicked you out?" "He said I was a burden." Clara just stood there, like she'd been waiting for him to say it. Lydia sat across from me, shaking her head. "Unbelievable. After everything you've done for that boy. You paid his college fees? You helped him buy that house." "I thought love would mean something," I said quietly. "I thought if I gave enough, he'd remember who I was." Lydia sighed, wrapping her hands around her mug. "You can't keep giving to people who only know how to take." I stared at the steam rising between us. When he was little, he used to wait by the window for me to come home from work. He'd fall asleep holding my hand. I never imagined that one day he'd look at me like I was useless. "People forget kindness when it's constant," she said softly. "They start to believe it's their right, not your choice." I wiped my eyes with the edge of the towel. I can't stop hearing his voice. "You didn't save anything." As if saving him wasn't enough. Lydia leaned forward. "He doesn't deserve you crying like this. You gave him a life most people would kill for. Don't let him destroy what's left of yours." "I don't even know where to start," I murmured. "I've worked every day of my life. I don't know how to be nothing." "You're not nothing," she said firmly. "You're just in between chapters. You'll see." Her words were kind, but my chest still ached. I stared at the window where rain traced long silver lines down the glass. "You ever feel like the world just keeps asking for pieces of you until there's nothing left?" "All the time," she said with a weak smile. "But that's why you've got me. And you're staying here until you figure things out. No arguments. I can't impose—" "Margaret," she interrupted, "you've given people your whole life. Let someone give back, just once." Her insistence broke something inside me. For the first time that night, I let myself breathe. "Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'd survive," she said gently. "But maybe this time you won't have to alone." I tried to smile, but my lips trembled. "Do you think he'll ever realize what he's done?" "Maybe," she said after a pause. "But by the time he does, it might not matter anymore." The rain softened outside, tapping gently against the window. The sound filled the silence between us. I stared at the small lamp beside the couch, its yellow light flickering across the walls. I used to think losing love was the worst thing that could happen. But I'm starting to think losing respect for yourself is worse. Lydia nodded. "Then don't lose it. Don't go back. Promise me." I hesitated. "He's still my son." "I know," she said, her voice low. "But you're still a person. Start there." We sat quietly for a moment, listening to the rain fade to a drizzle. She stood to refill our mugs, her slippers whispering across the floor. I watched her move around the kitchen, calm and steady, and felt a strange mix of envy and gratitude. "How do you stay so grounded?" She smiled over her shoulder. "I learned the hard way that no one's coming to rescue you. You have to decide what you're worth and refuse any price lower than that." Her words settled deep inside me. "I think I've been selling myself cheap my whole life." "Then raise the price," she said simply. We both laughed softly, though it wasn't really funny. When the laughter faded, I stared down at my hands, drying now but still trembling. You know what hurts most? Not the rejection. It's realizing I made it easy for him to treat me that way. I taught him I'd always forgive, always fix, always stay. And now? Now. I'm done fixing. The clock ticked quietly in the background. Lydia placed her hand over mine. "Good." The city lights reflected off the wet pavement like broken glass. I leaned back against the couch, exhaustion washing over me. I thought tonight would end with me losing everything. But maybe it's the first night I start finding myself again. Lydia smiled softly. It's about time. The words lingered as I watched the last drops of rain slide down the window. My heart was still cracked open, but through those cracks, something new was breathing. A small, stubborn hope. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like someone's mother or servant. I just felt human, and somewhere deep down, I sensed it. This wasn't the end of my story. It was the quiet moment before the truth I'd buried all my life finally began to rise. You said there was a letter, Lydia said, hands already at the teapot like she couldn't sit still. There is. My voice sounded small in her kitchen. It came this morning. It's from her? From Mrs. Whitmore? She asked, like she hoped it was some mistake that would fix everything. It's from her. I set the envelope on the table between us and watched her fingers tremble as she reached for it. I didn't open it until I was alone in the hallway. You waited? Lydia frowned. Why would you do that? I didn't want to get my hopes up, I said, or fall apart in front of you. If there's any chance... She stopped herself, then laughed softly. Margaret, that woman adored you. She wouldn't just... Then why would she leave anything at all? I asked. My laugh turned brittle. She always said I was part of the household, but I never expected... I trailed off because the envelope felt heavier than paper when I finally slipped my thumb under the flap. You're shaking, Lydia said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. Open it. I unfolded the letter with fingers that didn't want to obey. The handwriting was elegant, the kind I'd seen on holiday cards and invitations. The first lines were warm and familiar, and for a second my chest eased. My dear Margaret, I read aloud, my throat thick. You have been a light in my house longer than any gardener or tutor or friend. Your loyalty, your kindness, your listening, these are treasures I have relied on. That sounds just like her, Lydia said. She always noticed the small things. She did. I swallowed. She called me her sister sometimes. She taught me things I never thought I could learn. My hands flipped the page. My eyes skipped the formalities and landed on the single paragraph that followed, and I felt the room tilt. It is my wish, I read, voice barely a whisper, to leave the majority of my estate to Margaret Turner for reasons of gratitude and affection. My executors will ensure a trust is established for her care and independence. Lydia made a sound that was half exhale, half laugh. Wait, what? A trust, I repeated, the words foreign and suddenly huge. She left me a trust. How much? Lydia's question was sharp, immediate. I almost didn't want to say it aloud. 7.5 million. The numbers tasted unreal in my mouth. 7.5? Lydia's hand flew to her mouth. Oh my God. I felt faint, like the room had become too small for the news. I kept waiting for the rest of the page to say it was a mistake. But there it was, signed, notarized, and every instruction in order. You have to call someone, Lydia said. An advisor? A lawyer? This changes everything. I know. My laugh was a small, defiant thing. I don't know who I would call. I haven't kept any numbers except the Whitmore's house line. You know that. You saved that woman's life sometimes, Lydia said. She trusted you more than anyone. She wouldn't have done this on a whim. She was very private about it, I said, thinking of the afternoons we'd sat at her piano, the quiet evenings when she'd talk about books and leave me with more confidence than I had. But she was clear in the letter. She wanted me to have independence. So what are you going to do? Lydia's voice softened, careful. You could keep this private, sort things out quietly. Or you could... She stopped. Or I could tell Ryan, I finished for her, the idea like a stone in my mouth. And watch him scramble. But what would that prove? That he sees me only when there's something to take? Lydia leaned back, eyes searching mine. You don't have to decide now. You can take time. I don't want to rush, I said. But I also can't pretend this won't change how they see me. My fingers toyed with the edge of the envelope, tracing the crease until it felt like a map. You could use some help, Lydia murmured. Let me call someone, an attorney I know, discreet, no fireworks, just protection. Protection, I echoed. The word felt right and heavy. I thought the only protection I needed was being useful. Turns out money is a different kind of armor. You're not defined by a bank balance, Lydia said quickly, but then she hesitated. Though it will give you options. Real ones. There was a silence where both of us let the truth settle in the dim light. Outside, the street was quiet. The kettle had stopped hissing hours ago, leaving the room with a faint smell of citrus and chamomile. You deserve this, Lydia said finally. More than anyone. Do I? I asked. Do I deserve a life where I don't have to knock on doors at midnight for extra shifts? Where I don't have to sleep on one eye because I worry about bills? You do, she said. And more than that, you deserve the right to choose who gets to be in your life. A small sound escaped me that was half laugh, half sob. It's strange, I said. All these years I thought money would make people kinder. It didn't, but maybe now with this... I tapped the envelope lightly, like it could break. I can finally decide what kindness looks like for me. And you don't have to decide alone, Lydia reminded me. We'll list options. We'll be cautious. We'll make sure everything is handled the way Mrs. Whitmore would have wanted. She always wanted me to be safe, I said, thinking of her steady gaze and gentle hands. She taught me to read music, to plant roses, to say no when it mattered. Maybe this is her final lesson. Lydia's smile was warm and unshowy. Then let's get to work on a plan. One step at a time. I nodded, though my mind was already racing with possibilities. Houses I could own, a small studio where morning light would spill in, a place for my paints. But beneath the excitement, something firmer took root. The idea that I could protect myself had a new sound, not bitterness, but a guarded hope. Do you think they'll ever know? I asked, thinking of Ryan and Clara, of the way they had shut me out. They'll know when you choose to tell them, Lydia said. Or they may never know. Either way, this night taught me something different about love. It shouldn't feel like erasure. I folded the letter back into the envelope with a steadier hand. I promised myself I wouldn't let this become about proving them wrong. Good, Lydia said. Make it about living for you. For a moment, I let myself imagine waking up in a small house with sunlight on the floorboards and no one's demands in my ears. It felt oddly holy. As I rose to leave that night, Lydia walked me to the door. Sleep, she said simply. Tomorrow we call a lawyer. Then we take it from there. I stepped into the cool night, the envelope heavy in my bag but my shoulders lighter than they'd been in years. My heart was broken, but a truth I'd buried was beginning to rise. The world I thought I knew had shifted under my feet, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel afraid of the fall. The front desk clerk slid the key card across the counter with a polite smile. Enjoy your stay, Ms. Carter. I nodded, the name still foreign on my tongue. Thank you. The hotel hallway was quiet, carpet soft beneath my shoes, the kind of silence that feels earned. Inside the room, I dropped my small bag onto the bed, one suitcase, one life, and $7.5 million in the bank. For a moment, I just stood there, listening to the hum of the air conditioner. It was the sound of no one needing me. When I called Lydia later that night, she answered on the first ring. Did you get there safely? I did, I said. Room's clean. Big window. View of the city. That's good. Sounds peaceful. It is, I hesitated. Too peaceful, maybe. You've earned some quiet, Margaret, she said gently. Take it. Let them live their mess without you. Her words settled in the air between us, heavy with truth. I leaned against the window, watching the lights flicker across distant rooftops. Do you think they've even noticed I'm gone? Oh, they've noticed, Lydia replied. But people like them don't miss the person. They miss the help. Let that be their lesson. I smiled faintly. You sound like Mrs. Whitmore. She'd tell you the same thing I am. Don't waste your new life looking back. After we hung up, I made tea from the hotel's little kettle. The water hissed softly as it boiled. I'd never realized how lonely freedom could sound. Over the next few days, I didn't go far. I walked to the nearby park, watched people pass by, parents pushing strollers, teenagers laughing over coffee. No one knew me. No one expected anything. I could have been anyone. Still, every evening I found myself on my phone, scrolling through social media, curious in a way I hated. Ryan's posts were still up. Pictures of dinners, vacations, smiles that looked stretched too thin. Then one night, something new appeared. A cryptic caption under a dimly lit photo of their living room. Some people only care when you're useful. It wasn't like him to post something like that. The next day, Lydia stopped by the hotel, carrying a paper bag of pastries. "You look better," she said, setting the bag on. She raised an eyebrow. "Trying to move on or trying to stalk your son's updates?" I looked away, embarrassed. "Maybe both." "Margaret," she sighed. "I get it. You want him to understand what he threw away. But you can't build peace out of someone else's regret." "I don't want revenge," I said quietly. "I just want to exist in his world again, not as someone he can use, but as someone he remembers." "You don't owe him remembrance," Lydia said. "He made his choice. You get to make yours now." Her words should have comforted me, but part of me still ached. "He's my son, Lydia. I spent my life teaching him right from wrong. Maybe I failed." "You didn't fail," she said firmly. "You loved. That's not failure. It's risk." Later that night, after Lydia left, I sat by the window again, watching the rain slide down the glass. The city glimmered below, cold and bright. I thought about all the nights I'd worked double shifts so Ryan could sleep soundly under a roof I paid for. Now he had his own roof, and it was starting to leak. A week later, I saw a familiar figure while passing the cafe across from their neighborhood, Clara sitting alone by the window. Her hair was undone, makeup smudged. She was on the phone, voice sharp even through the glass. "No, Ryan, I told you, we can't pay it this month." She snapped. "You said your mother would help, and now she's vanished. Do something." The words hit me like an echo from another lifetime. I turned away quickly, my pulse racing. That night I couldn't sleep. Lydia's advice replayed in my head. Let them live their mess without you. But how do you watch your own child fall apart, even when he deserves to? The next morning, I called the hotel concierge. "Could you please send someone to pick up a parcel for me? It needs to go to this address." I gave Ryan's home address, then paused before continuing. "It's just an envelope, no note." Inside that envelope, I placed a cashier's check for $15,000, enough to pay their bills, not enough to make them comfortable. When Lydia found out, she wasn't happy. "You helped them?" she said, staring at me like she couldn't believe it. "I didn't help," I said. "I gave them silence. They'll never know it was me. That's enough." She leaned back, folding her arms. "You're still protecting him." "Maybe," I admitted, "but not the way I used to. This time, I'm not saving him. I'm letting him learn what happens when the world doesn't bend to him." Lydia studied me for a moment. "You're changing." "I think so." The following days passed in quiet rhythm. Morning walks, calls from the bank, meetings with lawyers. For the first time in my life, people spoke to me with respect, not pity. Every signature I made on a document reminded me I wasn't powerless anymore. But power, I learned, isn't about showing off. It's about choosing silence when you could roar. A week later, Ryan tried to call. His name flashed across my phone screen, and for a moment, my heart clenched like old muscle memory. I didn't answer. He tried again the next day, and again the day after that. Each time I let the phone ring. By the fourth call, he left a message, his voice brittle, almost desperate. "Mom, I don't know where you are. Clara's been impossible, and things are bad. Look, I know I said awful things, but please, just call me back, please." I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the phone. My hand hovered above the screen, but I didn't press play again. For once, I didn't rush to fix everything. I didn't cry or pack a bag. I just let the silence hang in the air, steady and cold, like truth finally finding its place. Outside, the city lights flickered in the rain. The reflection in the glass didn't look like a servant anymore. It looked like someone who'd finally stopped apologizing for existing. They had called me worthless. Now I was worth more than all their opinions combined. But I didn't need to prove it. I sipped my tea, feeling the warmth spread through my chest, and smiled faintly to myself. Sometimes silence is the loudest way to be heard. The invitation arrived in a cream-colored envelope, neat handwriting, a faint scent of perfume, and just 2 words scrawled inside. "Let's talk." I knew Evelyn well enough to understand it wasn't a request. When I arrived at their house that evening, the air felt different, tighter. Clara greeted me with a polite smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mother's been waiting," she said, gesturing toward the dining room. The table was already set. 3 wine glasses, polished silverware, and attention so thick it could have been served as the main course. Evelyn sat at the head, every inch of her posture calculated. Margaret, she said, voice honeyed but cold. You look rested. I've had time to think, I replied, taking my seat. I'm sure you have, she said, her smile never faltering. Ryan's been worried sick about you. Across the table, Ryan shifted uncomfortably. I told them we should just talk things through, Mom. It doesn't have to be… Talk? Evelyn interrupted smoothly. That's exactly what we're doing. Talking about responsibility, about family. Clara poured herself a glass of wine, her eyes fixed on me. We've been struggling since you left. Bills piling up. You didn't think about that when you walked out, did you? I didn't walk out, I said. I was told to leave. Evelyn's smile hardened. Let's not twist the story. Families have disagreements. You chose pride over practicality. Pride. That word again. Ryan sighed. Mom, they just mean… No, let her speak, I said quietly. I want to hear what they think I chose. Evelyn leaned forward. You chose to stop working. You chose to abandon your family obligations. You've lived off others your whole life, Margaret. Don't you think it's time to contribute again? Clara added, we all make sacrifices. You're not the only one who's tired. I'm 58, I said evenly. I've worked since I was 16. Every dollar you spend in this house came from years I'll never get back. Stop making yourself the victim, Evelyn snapped. You raised a son who depends on you. That's your job as a mother. I felt a strange calm settle over me. A job? I repeated. And when exactly does that contract end? Ryan frowned. Mom, please don't start. They're just trying to help. Help? I turned to him. By calling me irresponsible? By inviting me to dinner just to shame me? Evelyn's tone sharpened. If you had any decency, you'd go back to work. Find another employer. There are wealthy families who'd hire you in a heartbeat. It's honest labor. Clara nodded. You were good at it. Why not do what you're best at instead of pretending you're above it now? Pretending. The word stung. I didn't quit because I thought I was above it, I said slowly. I quit because I'd spent my entire life serving people who saw me as furniture. I wanted something more. Evelyn laughed softly. More? You're too old to start chasing dreams, dear. The world doesn't owe you a reward for endurance. Maybe it doesn't, I said. But I owe myself peace. Ryan rubbed his temples. This isn't getting us anywhere. Can't we just agree Mom will think about it? I'm not thinking about it, I said firmly. Evelyn's gaze turned icy. Then don't expect sympathy when your pride leaves you penniless. Clara added under her breath, some people just don't know when to be grateful. I set down my fork. Grateful? For what? Being called useless? For raising a son who thinks love has conditions? Ryan's voice rose. That's not fair. No, it's not, I said, standing up. But it's true. For a moment, no one spoke. The clink of cutlery stopped. Evelyn's expression hardened like marble. Sit down, she said, her tone commanding. We're not finished. I am. My voice was calm, too calm. You've mistaken my silence for weakness. You've mistaken my kindness for surrender. That ends tonight. Evelyn's lips curled into a cold smile. You'll regret walking out on your family, Margaret. Believe me. I already did once, I said quietly. Not this time. I looked at Ryan. His eyes darted away. Clara stared at her glass like she wanted to disappear. I spent my life trying to earn respect in this house, I said. Now I see it was never for sale. As I turned toward the door, Evelyn's voice followed me, sharp and cutting. You're making a mistake. You think you can survive on pride alone? I paused, hand on the doorknob, and looked back over my shoulder. I don't need to survive on pride, I said. I've already survived on less. The door clicked behind me, soft but final. Outside, the evening air felt lighter, freer. The porch light cast a pale glow on the driveway. My car waited at the curb. My name on the registration, my money in the bank, my choices finally my own. As I walked toward it, I could still hear their voices faintly through the closed windows, bickering, blaming, feeding off each other's bitterness. It used to break me, that sound. Now it just proved how small their world was. When I slid into the driver's seat, I didn't cry. I didn't shake. I just sat there, breathing in the quiet. They thought they'd humiliated me. But the truth was, I'd already moved beyond their reach. Their power over me ended the moment I realized I didn't need their approval, or their love, to feel whole. And as the car pulled away from the house, a thought crossed my mind, steady and certain. They'd see soon enough. The woman they'd tried to belittle was already building something they couldn't destroy. You really bought it? Marcus's smile was smooth, professional, like someone who'd closed 100 deals and never been surprised. I did, I said, keeping my hand still on the brochure. I want the... Do you want to tour the model now? His tone was deferential, the kind that treats a client as an honored guest. Yes, please. I felt a strange lightness as we walked. The showroom smelled faintly of polish and new fabric. Sunlight pooled across scale models and glossy brochures. For years I'd scrubbed other people's floors. Now I was choosing the space where I would live. As we moved toward the model, a young woman in a smart blazer stepped out from behind a display, her posture alert. "Can I help you?" she asked with a smile that looked practiced. "I'm here to see the villa," I answered. She froze for a heartbeat, and then the smile curdled into something sharp. "Margaret?" she said, as if my name were an accusation. The air tightened. "You recognize me?" I asked, calm on the surface. She laughed too loudly. "Oh my God, I thought, aren't you the woman who used to work for the Whitmores? What are you doing here, really?" Her voice carried. Faces turned. I felt heat rise, that old familiar shame settling like a heavy cloak. Marcus stepped in front of me subtly, polite but cautious. "Excuse me, Sophie, this is a client. Let's keep things professional." Sophie's jaw clicked. "Professional? She's a housekeeper. What's she doing looking at million-dollar villas? Is this a joke?" "She's a client," Marcus repeated steady. "Please show her the model." Sophie scoffed and pushed past, leading with a bitterness I hadn't seen in years. "Fine, I'll show you. But honestly, don't you feel silly? Playing at being rich." I watched her words land on the room like thrown shards. People glanced at me with a mix of curiosity and that old contempt. For a moment, the old self wanted to rise, to apologize, to explain where I'd come from and why I'd earned the right to be here. I didn't. Instead, I opened my bag and pulled out my phone. I tapped the banking app, fingers steady now, and slid the screen toward Marcus and Sophie without a word. The numbers reflected back in cold, luminous clarity. Sophie's face lost color the way a curtain might when a light is turned on. "That can't be real," she breathed. "It's real," Marcus said, his professional tone cracking into honest surprise. "Ma'am, I'm sorry. That changes everything." "So you lied about me," Sophie snapped, outraged and humiliated. "You assumed—" "I assume nothing," Marcus cut in firmly. "We verify every potential buyer. I apologize for the interruption earlier. Would you like to continue the tour?" Sophie's eyes snapped to me, fire and something like wounded pride. "No, I don't," she faltered. The clients watching shifted their focus. Whispers rose and sank like tiny waves. I let the silence do the work. I folded my phone and smiled, not triumphantly, but with a steady calm I'd never allowed myself before. "I'll take it," I said simply. Marcus began, astonished. "I'll take both units," I corrected. "One to live in, one as an investment." Sophie made a sound that was almost a sob. "You don't even— Who is helping you buy these? Some rich man?" Her voice was venomous. "No," I said. "This is mine." "You can't be serious." She looked like a woman watching the last piece of her certainty vanish. "People don't just— They do when someone notices them," I replied quietly. Mrs. Whitmore noticed me. The name hung in the air, and suddenly several clients leaned in. "Mrs. Whitmore?" one murmured. "Yes," I said. "She left me a trust." Sophie's face finally broke. That can't be true. She stalked off, muttering, and the showroom regained its hum of polite conversation and shocked glances. Marcus led me through the model like a man showing a rare artifact. "The sunroom has great light in the morning," he said. "You'll get a view of the garden from here." "Perfect," I said. My voice was steady. My chest felt light, as if some heavy curtain had been drawn back and fresh air had come in. When we finished the paperwork, I signed on the line and watched Marcus process everything with a care that felt almost reverent. Monica, a young assistant who'd been polite to me from the start, brought coffee and offered congratulations with genuine warmth. Her smile felt like something earned. Sophie hovered at the edge of the room, her arms folded, jaw tense. I could see the calculation on her face, humiliation, then anger, then a small, scheming look that made my skin crawl. She didn't leave immediately. As Marcus and Monica arranged the keys and final documents, Sophie leaned in close enough that only I could hear. "You don't belong here," she said. "You're playing a part, and it won't last. You're wrong, I whispered back. My voice was quiet but fierce. I belong wherever I choose to belong. She spat the words as if they wounded her. People like you don't get to choose. People like me don't ask permission, I replied, turning away. My hands felt warmer than they had in years. For once I wasn't waiting for approval from people who'd never given it. Outside, the city buzzed on. The villa's glossy brochure lay under my hand like a promise. For years, other people's homes had been the settings of my labor. Bathrooms scrubbed until they shone, linens folded with precision, holidays arranged to their taste. I had been invisible in their polished lives. Buying this house felt like taking back every quiet hour I'd given away. Back at the hotel that night, Lydia was waiting on the call. Well? She asked, breathless. I did it, I said. I bought the villa. There you go. Her voice was full of a delight that made me laugh. How did they take it? They tried to make a scene, I said. Sophie, Clara's cousin, she made a point of humiliating me until she saw my balance. Then she tried to pretend she'd been right all along. I heard Lydia curse softly on the other end. Good, she said. Let them choke on their own assumptions. I thought I'd feel empty after the signature, I admitted. But I felt whole. You earned this, Lydia replied. Not as a trophy, but because you sacrificed enough to deserve peace. I folded the brochure and set it on the bedside table, the paper crease crisp. My reflection in the window looked different, older, yes, but steady. The doubts that used to wake me at 3 a.m. were quieter now, yet something nagged under the quiet triumph. Sophie's final words, "People like you don't get to choose," echoed in my head. They weren't just about social status. They were about worth, about permission. That night, as city lights bled into the darkness, I found myself wondering how long it would take before they realized the woman they'd dismissed was the one who no longer needed them. The villa keys sat heavy in my bag, a tangible reminder that power needn't be loud to be real. I slept with the brochure folded beside my pillow and woke with a new certainty. I would not use this money to punish them. I would use it to build the life I'd always been afraid to ask for. But I also knew one thing with a quiet, steady clarity. They would hear about it soon enough. And when they did, silence might not be enough. You can't be serious. This is a joke, right? Excuse me, that's enough. You heard her, she's just playing rich. Please, everyone, let's keep this professional. I stood between them, feeling the showroom shrink and stretch all at once. Faces leaned in, phones half raised, curiosity snapping like a net. Sophie's laugh had been sharp, meant to cut. Now it trembled. You showed me earlier she didn't look like a buyer, Sophie insisted, pointing at me as if I were a stain. People like her don't. She's a client, Marcus said, steady, and the word landed like a gavel. Security, please verify the documentation. You want me to wait while you check? I asked, voice low. My hands were calm. My chest was unexpectedly quiet. Yes, ma'am. Marcus's manner had changed. Respect slid in where condescension had been. We'll confirm her funds immediately. Sophie's face flushed. This is ridiculous. I saw her folding sheets at the Whitmores. And? I asked softly. Does that make my money any less mine? You don't understand, she snapped. There are rules, there are laws, Marcus interrupted. And we verify everyone the same way. A security guard appeared, clipboard in hand. Ma'am, can you provide ID and proof of funds? I handed over the documents without a tremor. The guard checked, typed, frowned, then called to his supervisor. Everything checks out. His voice was small in the sudden stillness. You're sure? Sophie demanded. There must be a mistake. No mistake. Marcus folded his arms, eyes on her. Ma'am, on behalf of the firm, I apologize for the earlier behavior. Would you like to proceed with the viewing? Sophie's mouth opened, then closed. Whispers ricocheted. Someone muttered, I never would have guessed. Another voice said, she's one of us now? As if wealth could change the rules of being human. I felt a curious lightness, nothing dramatic, just a clear air where confusion had been. Yes, I said. Show me the villa. Monica, who had been quietly professional the entire time, led me through the model home as if she'd been waiting for this moment. This room gets the morning sun, she said with honest enthusiasm. You'll love the light. It's perfect, I answered. I meant it. For the first time in years, I wasn't looking at someone else's life through the lens of service. I was imagining my mornings there. Coffee on the terrace, paint by the window. When we returned to the desk, Marcus set the paperwork gently in front of me. "If you're ready, we can begin the process." "I'm ready," I said, and the pen felt heavier than it should have, the ink like a final stitch. Sophie lurked nearby, jaw tight. She edged closer under the pretense of gathering brochures. "Wait, who is backing this?" she asked loudly. "Who's the rich man?" "You must be kidding." Her voice broke then, equal parts fury and something wounded. "That's impossible." "It's not impossible." The truth felt small and ordinary, held between my palms. Mrs. Whitmore left me a trust. She trusted me. She cared for me in ways your family never did. The name spread through the room like wind. A few people recognized it. A few nodded. Others simply stared, recalculating what they'd assumed. "You don't get it," Sophie spat. "You slept your way into their favors. That's how girls like you—" "Stop." My voice cut clean. "You don't get to rewrite my life into a story that makes you feel superior." "Sophie, that's enough," Marcus said sharply. "Security. Escort her to the front if she continues." She stared at me as if seeing me for the first time, not with contempt, but with a raw, embarrassed fury. Then she turned and left, shoulders tight as a drum. The showroom exhaled in a dozen tiny sounds. I signed the papers for both villas with steady hands. Marcus congratulated me with a hand that hesitated only a second, unsure whether to offer warmth or protocol. Monica's smile was pure, no calculation, just kindness, and that mattered. After I left the showroom, I walked into the bright afternoon like someone stepping out of a rainstorm into sun. My phone lit up almost immediately with messages I'd been avoiding. Missed calls from unknown numbers, texts from Lydia checking that I was okay. And then, one that made my throat catch, an incoming message from Ryan. "Mom, can we talk?" It read, "Please." "I'm sorry. I didn't mean, call me." The punctuation stuttered like a heart. Another message followed, pleading and erratic. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Come home, let's fix this." I felt the old reflex, the one that had made me run back to him when he scraped his knee, the one that patched holes without counting the cost. For a second, pity rose like tide. Then I thought of his face at the door, the way he'd looked at me as if I were a stain. I remembered Clara's voice, the clipped, performative concern that had been contempt in gloves. I typed deleted. My thumb hovered, then rested. For once I didn't give him the immediate rescue. Lydia caught me as I paused, her eyes searching mine. "What did he say?" she asked. "Apologies," I said. "A string of them." "Will you answer?" "I'll decide later." My voice surprised me with how calm it sounded. "I spent my life saving him. Now I need to save myself." She nodded, understanding more in the silence than words could offer. "Then don't let him hurry you." As evening fell, the city glittered and the messages kept coming, some softer, some edged with anger. Each one was a small test. Would I return to the role I'd always played, or would I keep this new boundary like a shield? I walked back to my hotel room, the villa brochure folded in my purse. The keys in my hand were small, ordinary metal, and enormous in consequence. My reflection in the window looked back like someone I didn't entirely recognize. There was no victory dance in my chest, no triumphant shout. Just a focused, quiet resolve. They'd see me differently now. Whether that would mend anything was another matter. But tonight, for the first time in decades, I let myself believe I could choose. "My phone won't stop buzzing. He's live," I said, voice tight as glass. "Don't open it yet," Lydia warned on the other end. "You'll see the comments." "He's calling me a monster," I whispered. "He's begging for sympathy." "Let him perform," Lydia said. "Watch, breathe, don't react before you think." "I can't just sit and watch him sell lies," I said, fingers hovering over the screen. "You don't have to answer him now," she replied. "You can respond on your terms. He's got viewers already. Look at his count. Thousands." My throat felt raw. They believe him. They think I abandoned him when I got money. "That's his angle," Lydia said firmly. "He's twisting the story to make himself the victim." "He's crying on camera," I said. "He's saying I left him with nothing, that I took the house and ran." "He's desperate," Lydia murmured. "Desperation looks like grief. Don't let pity drown out the truth." "I'm going to go live tomorrow," I said suddenly. "I'll show the documents, the adoption papers, The bills, everything. You sure? Lydia asked. That will change the game, but it's public. I don't want an argument, I said. I want facts to speak. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from something like a controlled anger. He made me a villain. I'll let the truth be the light. You'll need proof ready, Lydia said. Scans, receipts, that audio you saved? Make it airtight. I have the trust documents, I said. And Mrs. Whitmore's letters. I'll pull up everything tonight. You sound steady, Lydia observed. Good, keep it that way. I'll need a script, I admitted. I don't want to ramble like I always do when I get upset. Short, precise. Start with the main claim and dismantle it piece by piece, she said. People respond to clarity. Okay, I exhaled. I'll do that. The next evening, Ryan's stream hit a peak, his face pale, eyes wet, hands shaking. My mother abandoned me, he said into the camera. She left when I needed her. She took the house. She doesn't care. That's a lie, someone typed. She wouldn't do that. Tell it to the judge, he snapped. I'm not the only one she's hurt. A donation banner rolled across his stream, hearts and cash piling up. This is so wrong, I said aloud. People are sending him money. Let him get the pity, Lydia said quietly. Then show the receipts. I don't want to bait him, I said. I want to end it. Then end it, Lydia said. Calmly, factually, no theatrics. The following night I started my own stream. Good evening, I said, and my voice didn't shake. I'm Margaret. I want to tell you the full story. People are watching, Lydia said softly. I can see the numbers. Hello, Margaret, one viewer typed. We want the truth. Start with the document, I said aloud, and then to the camera, here is Mrs. Whitmore's will. She left a trust for my care. This is notarized. I held the scan to the screen until the chat filled with question marks and stunned emojis. That's the trust? Someone typed. No way. Next, I said, here are hospital bills from when Ryan was an infant. I paid them. I displayed each file, my fingers steady as I scrolled. You did all that? Lydia's voice was small, proud. I did, I said. I raised him because I chose to save a child in an orphanage. I did it alone. I never asked for repayment. The chat shifted. Curiosity turned to support. She's telling the truth, one message read. This is heartbreaking. On Ryan's stream, the energy shifted too. She's lying, he shouted into his phone. She's manipulating people. Show us proof, someone typed in his chat. Where's the adoption paper? I've got it, I said. Watch. I uploaded the scanned adoption certificate, the official stamp clear as a bell. No, someone posted on Ryan's stream, stunned. This changes everything. He began to stutter, voice rising. That can't be. She's lying to cover something. She's not, Lydia said firmly. She's consistent. I'm not here to humiliate him, I told my viewers, my tone steady. I'm here to end the distortion. I have records of years of expenses, tuition receipts, hospital invoices. I did not abandon him because I got money. I set boundaries because I was treated like a bank. Respect, a user typed. Finally. Ryan's face crumpled on his live feed. You're exposing me, he cried. How could you? I was hurt. You used hurt like a weapon, I said. You weaponized pity to attack me. Why would you do that? His voice broke. Why would you make me? Because I spent my life keeping you afloat while you learned to demand rather than appreciate, I answered. I won't let your narrative define me. People are calling him out, Lydia said, watching the comment flood. They're looking at his donations and asking questions. He's deleting comments, I observed. He's panicking. Good, Lydia said. Panic is revelation when it's honest. You're brave, one viewer messaged. Thanks for showing us receipts. Don't get cocky, I murmured. I'm cautious. My chest felt lighter as messages of support multiplied. On Ryan's stream, his viewers dwindled, some switching to mine. His voice turned bitter. You think this proves you're the saint? You're not innocent. I never claimed innocence, I said. I claimed truth. I held up an audio clip next, the recorded call where Ryan casually suggested arrangements for me to return to service work. The chat flooded with outrage. That recording, someone wrote. That's damning. Ryan's pleading became raw. Please, Mom, don't make this worse. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. You're sorry because you got caught, I said. You only felt shame when the world saw you. My voice softened. I wanted you to learn, not to fall. He begged, voice cracking. Please, just come home. Let's talk. I can't keep rescuing you, I said. Not when rescue is the only thing you expect. Will you call him? Lydia asked quietly. I'll respond when I'm ready, I said. Not because he needs me, but because I choose how to be in his life. Good, Lydia answered. You own that choice now. The chat erupted with offers of help, legal recommendations, messages of solidarity, viewers offering to share my stream. The momentum had shifted. Pity had been replaced with scrutiny. I didn't want to make this public, I admitted later, lowering my voice. But lying on the internet spreads faster than truth. And truth has weight, Lydia said. You just needed to set it down where people could see. I've spent 30 years. Keep the documents ready, Lydia reminded. There might be fallout. I will, I promised. I'll prepare the lawyer. I'll let the legal team handle the rest after the public sees the truth. Then sleep, Lydia urged. You did the right thing. I closed the stream, my hands finally still. The numbers on the dashboard glowed. Viewers, donations, new followers. The world had watched me dismantle a lie live. My phone buzzed with one new message from an unknown number. I opened it slowly. The screen read, "We need to talk. It's getting ugly. Call me." I stared at the words, a quiet calculation settling in my chest. This was not the end. It was the moment everything I'd hidden might have to step into the light. You weren't my mother, someone typed like a dare. That's not true, another said. She can't be serious. He's crying. He says she abandoned him. I know what you're seeing, I told the camera, and my voice was steady. Start with the adoption papers, Lydia coached quietly off screen. This is the adoption certificate, I said, holding it up so the text filled the frame. Signed, dated, court-stamped. No way, one viewer posted. That changes everything. Show proof of the medical bills, someone demanded. I will, I answered. I have the hospital invoices. I clicked through pages, the numbers stark and simple. These are for surgeries when he was an infant, emergency procedures they said he needed to survive. You got him help? A user wrote voice of surprise in text. I took him home because no one else would, I said. I paid for every treatment I could, worked double shifts, learned to stretch dollars so his life could continue. He's saying you left after the money, someone commented on his stream. He's rewriting the past to get sympathy, another replied on my chat. Why didn't you tell us this before? A viewer asked. Because I didn't want his past to be his anchor, I said softly. I wanted him to grow without carrying the shame of being abandoned. He never knew? Came a sharp message. He really didn't? He didn't know the details, I admitted. Only enough to survive, not enough to carry facts that would hurt him. He sounds like a monster on his stream, Lydia said quietly. But people can be complicated. He's human, I said. He's hurt. But hurt doesn't give him the right to hurt me. Upload the bills, someone urged. We need receipts. I scrolled, held each page up. Emergency room, pediatric surgery, pharmacy ledgers, tuition receipts, months of rent when he was at college. The chat ballooned with reactions, shock, sympathy, disbelief. He did tell lies, a message read. That audio where he arranges something. Are you going to play that? I already did, I said. The clip where he suggests I go back to work for a stranger. It's on record. Why would he do that? Someone asked, confusion threading the typing. Fear, Lydia answered softly. And entitlement. When people expect you to be a safety net, they forget you have limits. He called himself your son on camera, another wrote. How could he attack you? Love and ownership are not the same, I said. He learned to demand rather than appreciate. He's messaging me begging for donations to prove he's poor, one viewer typed. Isn't that manipulation? It is, I said. He turned pain into a spectacle to monetize sympathy. Did you regret adopting him? A blunt comment flashed. My throat tightened for a second. No, I said. Never. I saved his life because I believed every life is worth saving. I regret only that I didn't teach him boundaries sooner. So you raised him and he repaid you with... This? A viewer said, angry. He repaid me with his choices, I corrected. I gave him a life. He chose how to live it. He's live now, someone said. He looks lost. He's desperate, Lydia said, watching. Desperation makes people do reckless things. I'm not here to destroy him, I told the viewers. I'm here to be honest. Honesty is powerful, someone replied. You're brave. Is there proof you covered his college? A user asked. Yes. I showed a tuition ledger, scholarship rejections, my own bank transfers. I worked nights, made crafts, sold little things to get the fees. Why didn't you tell him? Came another question. Because I didn't want him to carry the pity, I said. I wanted him to stand on his own 2 feet without feeling like a charity case. Did you ever think he'd turn on you? A quiet voice asked. Sometimes I feared ingratitude, I admitted. But I never believed he'd weaponize it so publicly. He says you abandoned him, someone typed. How do you respond to that? You weren't abandoned, I said, and my voice was steady. You abandoned me. The chat reacted. Short, stunned messages that felt like a physical intake of breath. Ouch, someone typed. That's heavy. You should have told him he's adopted, one viewer insisted. I told him what I felt he needed, not what would burden him, I said. I protected him then. Now the truth is the protection I need. He's crying on his stream, someone noted. Now he's crying and begging. He's crying because the truth is catching up, I said. It's uncomfortable when your story no longer fits the face you show the world. He's asking for you to forgive him, a message read. Do you forgive him? I forgive the boy he once was, I replied. But forgiveness doesn't erase accountability. It doesn't mean I return to being his bank. He's still your son, someone typed, hesitant. He's my son by choice, I said. That made the betrayal sharper, not lesser. You sound calm, Lydia observed. Good. Keep the records visible. I will, I said. The documents are out. The facts are clear. Is the chat switching sides? Someone asked. Most are now on your side. It's shifting, I confirmed. People see what they want, but facts realign opinions. He's deleting comments, a viewer wrote. He's trying to control the narrative. Control is fragile when evidence exists, I said. You can't edit truth away. He posted a photo of the house with a sad caption, someone said. He's trying to paint himself as victim. Let him, I said. Victimhood doesn't absolve manipulation. You must be tired, Lydia said softly. This is heavy work. I am, I admitted. But it's honest work. It matters. He said you left because you wanted money, another user typed. Do you owe him anything? You don't owe someone who treats you like a resource, I said. You owe yourself a life that's yours. He's pleading now, someone typed. Says he'll change. Change needs tests, I said. Words after being caught aren't proof. The stream filled with offers, legal advice, messages of support, people volunteering to help monitor the online harassment. The current had turned. Where pity had flowed for him, scrutiny now washed over his claims. He's offline, someone announced minutes later. He's gone. Good, Lydia said. He needs time to see what he lost. I closed my documents and set them aside, feeling a quiet fatigue that was more like relief. For the first time in decades, the weight that had pressed my chest eased a fraction. You ever imagined this? A viewer asked. That the truth would flip the script? Not like this, I said. But I always hoped the truth would have its day. Do you think he'll come back? Another asked. I don't know, I said honestly. I think he might. But if he does, the question won't be whether he returns. It will be whether I let him back into the part of my life that I reclaimed. The chat slowed, pages of empathy and debate folding into a quieter hum. The screen dimmed as viewers drifted, but the impact lingered. I switched off the stream and sat in the dark for a moment, holding the adoption certificate in my hands. The paper felt ordinary, but it carried a weight that settled differently than any burden I'd known. For the first time I felt free, not because I'd proven anyone wrong, but because the guilt I'd carried was no longer mine to bear alone. A message blinked on the screen from an unknown number. We need to talk. It was short, ambiguous, and it made the hair on my arms lift. Whatever came next, I knew one thing clearly. The truth had been spoken aloud, and nothing would shrink it back into silence. You really want to go through with this? Mr. Harlan asked, sliding a stack of papers across the polished desk. Yes, I said quietly. He's gone too far. He's your son, he reminded me, though his tone was cautious, not judgmental. He was my son, I said. Now he's my accuser. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. All right, we'll start with a defamation claim and include harassment. We have enough evidence, the videos, the comments, and your proof of truth. Will it ruin him? I asked, though I already knew the answer. It'll hold him accountable, Harlan said. There's a difference. He picked up a folder. The court process won't be fast. Are you ready for that kind of spotlight again? I lived in the shadows for years, I said. I can handle light, even harsh light. He smiled faintly. Then let's begin. I'd always imagined justice as thunder, loud, immediate, shaking the world. But in real life it's slower. It moves like a tide, pulling everything into place 1 inch at a time. When we walked into the courthouse weeks later, the air was sharp and cold. Ryan was already there, sitting at the defense table, his lawyer beside him, his shoulders hunched, eyes dark from sleepless nights. Clara wasn't with him. I wondered if shame or exhaustion had kept her away. He didn't look at me at first, but when the judge entered, his gaze finally lifted. Mrs. Green, the judge began, you are claiming public defamation, emotional distress, and online harassment? Yes, Your Honor, I said, my voice steady. The defense spoke next. Ryan's lawyer stood, trying to shape him into a misunderstood man, a grieving son who had been manipulated by fame. He didn't intend harm, he said. He spoke from pain. Mr. Harlan stood smoothly. Pain does not excuse fabrication. My client was humiliated, harassed, and threatened because of his falsehoods. We have proof that he profited from deceit. He turned to the judge. We have screenshots of donations totaling over $200,000, all earned through claims proven false. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you have evidence that the statements were knowingly untrue? Harlan nodded. Yes, Your Honor. We have recordings where the defendant admits exaggerating the story to attract sympathy. The courtroom murmured. Ryan's lawyer tried to object, but the audio played before he could stop it. Ryan's voice filled the room, tired, bitter, and unguarded. They'll believe me if I cry. Everyone loves a sad story. They don't care about proof. I didn't move. I just breathed, slow and steady. Ryan sank lower in his chair. His hands trembled. The judge's expression stayed calm, professional, but his tone cooled. That's sufficient. Continue. When it was my turn to speak, I rose. Your Honor, I said softly, I didn't come here to punish him. I came to stop him, to stop the lies, the threats, the hate. I raised him. I loved him. But love doesn't mean silence. The courtroom went still. I taught him honesty, I said. He chose spectacle, and I won't let that destroy me. Ryan looked up finally. His lips parted as if to apologize, but no words came. After closing arguments, the judge adjourned for deliberation. The sound of the gavel echoed, 3 short knocks, final and unflinching. Outside the courtroom, Lydia waited by the door. How'd it go? She asked. I told the truth, I said. That's all I could do. You think he'll learn? I think he'll face himself, I said. That's lesson enough. Weeks later, the verdict arrived. The court ruled in my favor. Ryan was ordered to remove all defamatory content, issue a public retraction, and pay damages. His accounts were suspended for malicious conduct. When I saw the notice online, there was no surge of triumph. No music, no thrill, just stillness, the kind that hums when chaos finally quiets. That same week, Clara filed for divorce. Lydia told me first. It's official, she said. She's gone. Packed her bags and moved out. I didn't celebrate. I didn't even sigh. They built their world on judgment, I said. It was bound to collapse. Do you feel any better? Lydia asked. Not better, I said. Just free. I meant it. One afternoon, as I walked through my new villa's garden, the phone buzzed. Ryan's name appeared on the screen. I stared at it, thumb hovering over the answer button, then let it ring until it stopped. A message followed. I'm sorry, Mom. I lost everything. I didn't mean for it to go this far. For the first time, I didn't reply. I looked up at the sky, a quiet blue stretching endlessly, unbothered by human noise, and felt peace settle in my chest. Later that evening, I called Mr. Harlan. It's over, isn't it? For now, he said. The damage is repaired, but healing takes time. I'm not angry anymore, I said. I just hope he finds a way to be better than he's been. Forgiveness, Harlan said, smiling faintly. That's rarer than victory. I laughed softly. Maybe, but it's lighter to carry. After we hung up, I sat by the window, watching the light fade. The villa was quiet. No raised voices, no apologies, no noise. Just stillness, the kind that used to scare me but now felt like safety. For years, I'd thought freedom would come from confrontation, from proving I was right, from making them see my worth. But it wasn't victory that freed me. It was letting go of the need to be understood. The truth had done its work. Justice had restored balance, not through vengeance, but through peace. When the night finally deepened, I whispered to the empty room, "I forgive you, Ryan, but I'm done saving you." The words didn't echo. They simply landed and stayed, gentle, final. And for the first time, silence didn't feel lonely. It felt like freedom. "You signed the papers?" Lydia's voice was a whisper, like she didn't want the house to overhear us. "I did," I said, keys cold and heavy in my hand. "It's finally back where it belongs." "You look different," she said, stepping inside as I pushed the front door. "More. Sure." "The hallway still smells like their cologne," I replied, taking off my coat. "But there's nothing that has to belong to anyone else anymore." "You deserve this," she said, setting her bag down. "You finally get to make it yours." "I bought it for them once," I murmured. "I painted their rooms, scrubbed their floors, kept warmth in their kitchen. I thought that was how you keep a family. I was wrong." I breathed in the quiet. "Now it's my turn." "You want tea?" Lydia asked, already moving toward the small kettle on the counter. "I brought those biscuits you like." "Yes," I said. "Green tea, and a window seat where I can watch the garden." She laughed softly, then froze at the look on my face. "What's wrong?" "Nothing," I said. "Just memories, I suppose." We moved from room to room together, voices low so the house could listen. The living room still held the indentations where their couch used to sit. The kitchen cabinets were the same ones I'd tightened after years of use. I ran my hand along the banister where Ryan had once scuffed his palm as a child. "You could repaint," Lydia suggested. "Fresh color, new start." "I will," I said, surprising myself with how quickly the choice felt right. "Something warm, sunlight colors." "You're doing it," she said, as if seeing me decide made it true. Later, as she filled the kettle, I pulled out the box of keys and set them on the table. They clicked softly, like a small orchestra. When the judge signed the order, I felt less like I'd won and more like I'd been given permission to breathe, I said. "That's the best kind of victory," Lydia replied. "Quiet, sensible yours." There was a knock at the door then. My hand tightened. For a moment I thought it might be Ryan, or Evelyn, or Sophie looking for another scene. Instead, it was Monica, the young real estate assistant from the showroom, standing on the doorstep with a small bouquet. "I wanted to congratulate you," she said, cheeks flushed. "I'm so glad everything worked out." Her eyes flicked over the hallway, taking it in like anyone who just crossed a threshold into someone else's life. "Thank you," I said, surprised at how grateful I felt. "Come in." She crossed the threshold and set the flowers down, polite and quietly proud. "I remember when you were here. You were always kind to everyone." "You were kind to me too," I said. That meant a lot. She hesitated. "If you want, I can help arrange painters. I know a small team, honest people. They do careful work, not flashy stuff." Her voice was earnest. "That would be lovely," I said. "Thank you." When she left, Lydia poured our tea. We sat at the little table, steam folding into the afternoon light. "Do you ever think about going back?" she asked suddenly. "To what?" I asked. "To the life you had with them." "The obligations, the routine." "No," I said. The word felt clean. I can't unlearn the things I saw when I was invisible in my own life. "I won't go back to that." "You're sure?" Lydia pushed gently. "I am," I repeated. "This house was built with my sweat. It looked like their dream because I made it so. Now I want it to match mine." She nodded, and for a beat we sat in a companionable silence. "Didn't the court mention anything about reclaiming the deed?" she asked. "They reversed the transfer," I said. "It was messy, but the law did what it needed to. That's the official part. The rest is personal work." "Like repainting and tea every afternoon?" Lydia teased. "Tea every afternoon," I agreed, smiling. "And morning light in the sunroom. Maybe a small studio for painting." The idea warmed me like sun. "And you're okay with him not being here?" She asked softer now. "If he came back tomorrow with apologies and promises, I'd listen," I said slowly. "But I wouldn't fold into that role anymore. Not automatically. I learned how dangerous that is. Lydia reached across the table and squeezed my hand. You're doing the right thing by yourself. The first stroke of paint was both mundane and holy. I chose a soft, warm cream that seemed to let the room breathe. The painter, an older man named David Monica recommended, worked with careful hands and quiet jokes. He asked how I wanted the light to feel, and I said, like mornings after rain. You sure you don't want a bolder color? He asked, smiling. No, I said. Not yet. Maybe when I'm ready for the bold, I'll let it be the whole house. When the room was repainted, I stood in the middle while David put away his brushes. The air tasted like fresh plaster and change. It looks like your choice now, David said, wiping sweat from his brow. It does, I said. It finally does. I filled the kitchen vase with flowers Lydia picked from the market, white peonies and pale lavender. The scent made the room feel like a tiny celebration. I set out new mugs and a small stack of clean napkins, as if preparing for guests who would be welcomed on their own terms. That night, I sat by the window with a cup of tea and a letter Mr. Harlan had left earlier in the day, formal confirmation that the legal work was complete. The language was precise, but the meaning was simple. I read the words twice, then folded the letter and placed it in a drawer. The physical act felt like closing a chapter. You okay? Lydia's voice came from the doorway. She held 2 mugs, steam curling. I am, I said. I'm learning how to live for me, not for the roles I've been assigned. She nodded, tears glossy in her eyes. You deserved this a long time ago. Maybe I did, I said, but I needed to get to the place where I could accept it. We sipped our tea slowly, savoring the quiet. Outside, the street hummed with ordinary life, neighbors returning from work, a bicycle bell, the distant thrum of traffic. A message popped onto my phone, sharp and unexpected. From an unknown number, we need to talk. It's about the house. My chest tightened for a second. I set the phone face down without opening it. Are you going to answer that? Lydia asked, curious and cautious. Not yet, I said. Some things I'll choose to respond to, and some I won't. She studied me for a moment. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. Her words warmed me more than the tea. The house felt rooted under my feet, not a borrowed shelter, but a place that could hold my history and my future without either being erased. As I turned the lights down and walked through each room one last time that night, I paused in the doorway of the sunroom. The paint was dry, the garden visible beyond glass, the vase catching the last light. For the first time in years, standing in a house that had once meant sacrifice and now meant choice, I felt whole. And somewhere under that feeling, a new quiet question settled, one that the next morning might have an answer for. The morning light stretched across the garden like gold spilled over glass. I held my tea between my palms, watching the steam rise and fade. The air was quiet, just birds, wind, and peace that didn't need permission anymore. You've been up early every day this week, Lydia said, stepping onto the patio. You're supposed to be retired, not chasing sunrises. I like the silence before the world wakes up, I said. It's honest. She smiled, sitting beside me. Got another letter? Not a letter, I said. An email. From someone in France. Her eyebrows rose. Him? I nodded. A journalist found me. Said he's been living alone somewhere near Marseille. Works odd jobs. Keeps to himself. Lydia stirred her tea. Do you want to go see him? No. I said it softly, but the word was certain. Not because I'm angry, because I'm done needing to fix him. You think he's changed? She asked. I think life changed him, I said. That's different. The garden swayed with morning wind. I watched the flowers move, and for a heartbeat, I saw Ryan as a boy again, barefoot in the backyard, chasing bubbles, laughter floating like sunlight through leaves. Then the image faded, replaced by years of silence and headlines and grief. Does he know you forgave him? Lydia asked gently. He doesn't need to, I said. Forgiveness isn't for him anymore. She looked at me, studying my face. You sound at peace. I am, I said, then smiled. Finally. She leaned back, sipping her tea. Took you long enough. Peace takes time, I said. Pain demands to be processed before it can rest. She nodded. And when it rests? It leaves space for gratitude, I said. For small things. The smell of paint, the sound of the wind, mornings like this. Do you ever wonder if he regrets it? She asked. I don't need his regret, I said. That was the old me, the woman who wanted proof that her love mattered. What about Clara? Lydia asked. Heard anything? She remarried, I said. To someone steady, apparently. I hope she's happy. You actually hope that? Yes, I smiled faintly. Hate is a chain. I've carried enough of those. Lydia set her cup down and exhaled. You've changed more than anyone I know. I had to, I said. The woman I was couldn't have survived the life I lived. She looked around the garden. You've rebuilt everything. Your home, your peace, your strength. But do you ever miss being needed? I paused, sometimes. But only the idea of it, the illusion that being needed made me important. That illusion kept you alive once, she said. It did, I agreed. But it also kept me small. The wind brushed the petals of the hydrangeas, scattering dew into the light. I stood, stretching a little. When I first came back to this house, I thought freedom meant owning it again. But it wasn't that. What was it then? Freedom was learning I didn't have to prove I deserved anything, I said. Not this house, not love, not peace. Lydia smiled. You always did deserve it. I looked out at the horizon. It took losing everything to believe that. You ever think about writing it all down? She asked. Your story could help someone. I already have, I said, pointing toward the journal on the table. Every chapter ends the same way, with something I learned. Like what? She teased. I opened to the last page. The ink was still wet from earlier. Forgiveness is not erasing the past. It's reclaiming your place in it. That's beautiful, she whispered. I'm not done yet, I said. And peace isn't found in being right. It's found in letting go of needing to be. Lydia laughed softly. You sound like a poet now? I sound like someone who's lived, I said. She reached over and squeezed my hand. You're proud of who you are, aren't you? For the first time, yes. I took a deep breath, letting it out slowly. I used to think my worth came from what I gave others. Now I know it comes from who I became when they took everything away. You think he'll ever call? Lydia asked. Maybe, I said. And if he does, I'll answer. But not as his savior, just as myself. You'd talk to him? Yes, I said. Because the woman who once begged for belonging now stands in her own light. I can face anything from here. Lydia smiled, blinking back tears. You make peace sound powerful. It is, I said. It's the quiet kind of power that doesn't shout, but it stays. We sat in silence for a while, watching the sun lift higher. Somewhere in the distance, a bird called out. Then another answered, their songs overlapping like forgiveness and memory. I closed my eyes and spoke softly, not to Lydia, not even to the air, but to the space that still carried pieces of him. Ryan, wherever you are, I forgive you, not because you earned it, but because I can finally live without the pain. Lydia didn't speak. She just listened, the way true friends do when words become more than sound. I looked toward the horizon. The sun had cleared the tree line now, turning the garden into gold. He was out there somewhere, older, maybe wiser, maybe not. I didn't need to know. Love had once been my anchor. Now release was. I whispered again, almost to myself, I forgive you. But I'll never forget who I became because of you. The words didn't echo. They settled quietly into the air, like seeds. Lydia stood and brushed off her coat. You're going to be okay. I already am, I said. She smiled. Then what comes next? Whatever I choose, I said. That's the beauty of freedom. It asks nothing but honesty. She nodded. Then let's start with breakfast. We walked back toward the house, sunlight spilling across the floor through the open door. The home was warm now, lived in, claimed, loved. And as I stepped inside, I realized something simple, yet profound. I wasn't the woman they discarded. I was the woman who found her worth, and that, more than money, more than justice, more than even forgiveness, was my true inheritance. Sometimes the hardest goodbyes are the ones that free us the most. I lost everything once, my family, my dignity, even my sense of self, but what I found afterward was worth far more: peace, strength, and the courage to begin again. If you've ever stood at rock bottom and decided to rise anyway, your story matters. If you've ever been forced to rebuild your life from the ashes of betrayal,